Hello, everybody. This is our first, I should say, premiere podcast for WelshRighz and Associates and everyone associated with us, which it sounds like it's the same thing, but it's really not. Our topic for today is what do millennials need to know in order to be successful, and is it different from what your parents know? Now, of course, that's going to be different from all different types of perspectives, considering that people have come from different places, so this should be an interesting talk. Would anybody like to introduce themselves, please?
Yeah, I can go. My name is Cora. My tag is Nefi Labata. I am a poet, and I work for WelshRighz, and I'm also going to be developing into the process of the web series Brains and Beauty.
All right, nice to see you. And go ahead.
I'm Sin City. I go by Sin. I'm the owner of Queen of Sin's Boutique. I'm also a member of WelshRighz Entertainment, and I also have my own organization called The Movement.
Can you say that last part? What's your organization?
It's called The Movement.
The Movement?
Yes.
Very good. I was just making sure that's what you said. That's all. All right, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm really excited. My name is Amir Appleseed. I am both the proprietor of WelshRighz of itself, but I'm also an associate in that I am promoting myself as a performer and other people within a performance. And if you didn't know how WelshRighz is set up, it is set up as a monolith, basically, if that makes any sense. It might not make sense, so I hope I used the right word. Basically, it is a music label, a social media marketing platform, and a shelter. And with the shelter, it's associated with another group within the city called Icons for Peace, which Sin City is also associated with. Basically, it's an initiative to help people throughout the city, but also I'm not from New Orleans, so I do my best to try to be very national about it. Of course, I try to help support Icons for Peace as much as possible, but at the end of the day, they are much more passionate about it being about New Orleans and the youth in New Orleans specifically, because that's really where their heart is, and I understand that. So with that said, what do millennials need to know in order to be successful in New Orleans, but then also on a national level? For me, what I believe is that their parents don't have like the biggest understanding of what they're exposed to, I should say it like that. And what I mean by that is mostly the internet and how it's evolved from the time of the 80s all the way to now. There are 5-year-olds out there actually using the internet. So how can someone who may not even know how to use the internet, i.e. parents, because I do know a few of them that do not know how to use the internet properly, how are they supposed to help their children? First of all, of course, monitoring is one thing, but that's not really what we're talking about. How are they supposed to teach them and help them be successful in businesses and everything that's all of it's moving towards online? For the trends for 2016 in the first place, everything's moving to social media, and it's also moving online. So if you don't know how to use the internet, then how are you supposed to teach your child, which unless they go to college in a certain capacity, how are you supposed to teach them anything?
I can see that. Well, for me, one of mine was that they need to be able how to navigate in physical life and still be present, because everything is becoming computers and technology and the internet, and everything very much mechanical. So it's just they're going to forget to go outside and play, and they're going to forget to stay connected here in the present and in the physical and to do things. And I think actually their parents will probably be able to help them with that, keep them on track in that area if they can't help them in any other way.
That's true. Also a good point to mention is one thing that millennials, in terms of business, of course, and I mean, successful is more than business, but that's usually where I go to with it because that's my life right now. But in terms of physical locations, that's actually the one thing that millennials like, is actually going into a store. Just the thing that, is a limiting factor is prices and things like that. But again, that's not really what we're talking about. But you're right about that. So, I mean, someone could definitely still be successful with having a physical location. It's really just a matter of them knowing what they're doing.
Well, just as much as things get played up, they get played back down, too. So everyone's really about technology right now, but it's going to get to a point where the cool places are going to be places that have nothing to do with technology.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, I definitely agree with them. I agree with that. I actually know somebody that they had a store, used to be a Salvation Army. They closed down, and the people bought the same building, and they turned it into a thrift store. And, it still worked out hand in hand because they were known as, basically a thrift store before. And it's gone, so now it's like a whole new name. And people still came with them. I think they probably did better than Salvation Army.
Indeed. And that's because it was a physical location, right?
Right, exactly.
Is that leading, like, how would that lead to millennials in success?
It's all about getting a game plan, I would say that. Because they could have took that Salvation Army and made it into anything. Mm-hmm. So by people, they look at it as, all right, people already know this is a thrift store or whatever, so we're going to keep that. And I think that was a very good game. And I think people should make plans. And, promotions, that's good. Word of mouth is good as well. It's a lot of factors that go into this. But I think you have to start off with a good game plan. You have to look at what's the needs of the people and how can you serve them.
Well, I think you're right, but then I also think that when it comes to millennials and success with that in particular, you said that it used to be a thrift store or a Salvation Army, right? You said it used to be a thrift store. And it became a Salvation Army. Were they selling stuff out of there?
No. At first it was a Salvation Army. And they closed down, and then the people came back and bought the building, and they turned it into another thrift store. Which Salvation Army is kind of a higher class of a thrift store. So then they come back for better prices, like basically with the same clothes and the same materials, like the same products.
Real. Well, the point that I wanted to make about that too is that most millennials are poor. So by it becoming a thrift store, it actually was a part of a reason for its success, if it was successful, not only because it was a physical location, but both because it was a thrift type of store or a low priced type of store. But there is always a right and a wrong way to do something morally. That's how I feel, right? And so in terms of our society and how we are taught, from the basic, usually Christian, but of course that's a very loose usually, because there's so many different thought processes and religions and I'm looking for a specific word right now, but it's kind of not staying in my brain at the moment, so I'm just going to move on with the statement like I said it. So basically, where are those lines still the same, and how does someone still become successful by their lines being blurred if they cannot maintain their own selves, but then they also may or may not feel like their parents can put them in the right place? Like, how do they maintain their straightaway?
It's all about basically staying focused. Like I said, you have to set your goal and stop at nothing to obtain it. Because once you have a dream or a vision or something, the only person that's stopping it is you. You limit your own self.
Okay, I can see that.
Like, whether you have their support or don't have their support. Like with my business, I don't have none of my family support. I didn't come from the best family. None of my family members are business owners. My mom nor my dad never even dreamed about owning their own business. But that was something that I wanted, something that I saw for myself. And I stopped at nothing to get it.
So,
and it works out.
So I know that you have written a book recently, and how is it, like, what is your background in terms of where you're coming from and in terms of how you've made it from where you came from to, and I mean, of course, not like super long version, but like from you where you came from and like your support that you did or did not have, and even like education wise, like I don't know how much education you've had, and I'm not assuming anything. I'm just saying, like, make sure you include that.
No, I came from my mother was on drugs. My father was never there. I lived a shelter life with my grandmother. Came out of that. I always stayed in school. Katrina came. I left my grandmother, went back to my mother when she was still on drugs. High school came. I dropped out of every year in high school, ninth grade through 12th grade. I dropped out. And but I was smart. I was smart. So I passed all my tests, whatever. It worked out for me. I ended up graduating from high school. Went on. Just I didn't have nothing to do with my life. I went to a trade school, didn't like it. Went to cosmetology school, didn't like it because I felt like I went there and I learned everything that I needed to learn. I felt like at the first trade school I went to, they taught me business, so that's good. The second one, they taught me what I needed to know to do here, how to keep up with it. So I was like, all right, that's cool. So now my next thing is, how do I own my own business? How can I make money doing hair? And how can I keep that money flow going?
And
so I was like, all right, yeah, that's everything. So I might as well go ahead and get a boutique.
okay.
And still do hair inside the boutique.
So how did you end up, coming to the realization that you wanted to put all of this into a business that you owned?
I wanted something that was mine. I guess I didn't want to have to answer to nobody. I really don't like working for people. And I looked at the people that I was working for, and I'm looking at them. They making all this money. They're happy. They're going on vacations. I've never been on a vacation, so hey, what can I do to get to that? You know what I'm saying? They're driving around in these nice clothes. I have to wait for taxes and hope whatever car I can afford lasts me for next tax season. And I felt like that was not the life that I wanted. And I ended up, I had a baby. He was a boy. Became a single parent. And I was like, you know what? It's not just about me anymore. Now I really have to push on and strive so that I can be able to not only have a successful future with him as a mother, a successful future as myself, but be able to set him up for success if something was to happen to me there tomorrow.
Right. Now, something that I did want to mention to the listeners is that the people that we're speaking with right now specifically are people that are mainly integrated into WelshRighz itself. So it is important that we realize that the people that are in our organization are actual people versus, like a big corporate machine. That's not what we are, but we're also those people that are going out with our own lives and our own time and our own money and our own everything, trying to make a difference in our places that we stay. So at this moment, I would like to also bring up Nefelabata and kind of like tell us where you are right now, but then also where your goals are and maybe a little bit of however you would like to speak about it yourself before we get back to the main topic, I guess.
Well, I did want to address the question that you had asked.
Okay.
About, well, I did want to address that, and I did want to say that from my perspective, I mean, even though a lot of it is, of course, having that drive, having that motivation, and staying focused, it's, for some people, it is very much about a support system. It's about a team. It's about having people that have the same line of vision that you do, so that when you do fall off, or if you do lose your focus, or if you do have some unexpected events in your life, you have people there to help you pull it back in and bring it back together. And for me, that's more so what a lot of my poetry is about, and that's why I really got into poetry the way that I did, because a lot of people don't like to hear somebody talk, and a lot of people don't like to take advice from somebody that they feel like isn't doing, as great as they should be. But when it comes to just reading something that isn't completely directed to you, but you still have a certain attachment to it, then you feel like, okay, well, I'm not the only one in the world that feels this way. I'm not the only one in the world that doesn't feel like money is everything. Like, yeah, we need it for a certain form of currency, and we need it to live the comfortable life that we want and to take care of the people around us that we want. But to me, there are more important things than that. And I just want to express that to other people who feel that way, because a lot of your life, whether it's your parents or your friends or your teachers preparing you to go into business and things like that, it's all about money. But that's not what everything is about.
It's true.
So I'm working on centering my poetry there. I do have a couple of, emotional pieces, but I do want to have more inspiring work, and I do want to have more work that talks about life, and not just my life, but just my vision of life in general. I do want to be able to help with the homes, whether it's directly through WelshRighz, or if it's like kind of on my own, because I did want to open up homes on my own. Mine were going to be more so for middle-aged people or even a little younger people that were struggling because, and I know you were there for a lot of it, but I went through a lot of being homeless and going through different situations where I couldn't really get help. It was always seen as a handout, and it was always seen as, oh, well, you're young, you don't have a kid, you're pretty, you're educated, go out there and do it yourself. But I still needed a place to lay my head at night. So it was a little bit more stressful for me than I felt like it had to have been. I didn't appreciate being judged in that manner. Sometimes I felt like, okay, well, maybe if I had a kid, somebody would help me out. So I wanted to make homes for people that are in those kind of same situations. We all go about finding ourselves differently. So sometimes you just need the basics, a roof over your head, food, and somebody to support you and say, keep going, and that's it. You can do everything else on your own. You're still trying to find yourself. So that's one of my biggest goals. I don't know how far I'll go with the poetry. I might write a book. I don't really have too many plans for it. It was just an initial starting point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, actually, I wanted to jump off of that real quick too. As you said, or as Nefelabata, I'm sorry, as Nefelabata, I don't want to call you your real name, said that we had a short stint of being homeless, and that is something that has also inspired me to open up the shelters that I wanted to open up down here initially. I had a few problems with like putting a board together, so now it's more just initiatives around the city. So like some of the things that we're trying to do is open up public showers and lockers. I'm currently working on a business plan to send to the mayor. I went to his office the other day and his secretary gave me all their information and stuff. So that's one thing that we're working on. And then another thing we're working on is called the Water Brigade, which is a just initiative literally to donate water to where homeless people frequent. Because, I mean, people don't even really think about where you get your water from. And in all honesty, if it's even free, and then if they go there, are they going to be kicked out immediately? It's just stuff like that. So I totally see that working. Also, something that I wanted to mention was in the development process of the poetry and things like that, I feel like that is important for a lot of younger people. And interestingly enough, young men and women, as you know, we have Isaiah with us, or I should say Booyah, or AKA Volt. He is also getting involved with the poetry, but he's also getting involved with blogs and newspapers type of things. So maybe you guys will end up collaborating on that.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see it. When it comes to blogging, I just have a few kinks I need to work out in the way that I express certain things. And then once that's handled, it'll be a lot easier for me. But, I don't want people to lose sight of the main goal, and I tend to do that when I write. And I also don't want to throw too much information at somebody who isn't ready for it all at once, and I do that when I write. So I'm just trying to work those couple of kinks out so that I can do it and so that it is effective and it's more helpful than it is damaging.
Well, since this, again, is about how people can be successful, I wanted to make it a point to bring up the fact that WelshRighz in and of itself is a vehicle. So this vehicle is specifically for people to come on with what their needs are and have them met in a realistic type of manner, whether it's making a plan for what they're trying to do or whether it's becoming a part of it or just being advertised by it. In and of itself, it pretty much covers every base. So I feel like promoting us is one of the things that you can do in order to help young people be successful, because we're not only doing our stuff, but we're an example. And not only are we an example, but we're a movement. So it's just kind of like, I feel like it's important for us to make sure that we put ourselves out there. Now, I'm out of my main points right now in terms of success for millennials. I'd say that money management is probably one of the biggest skills that needs to be learned. And I don't know if... Okay, so let me put it this way. I was taught from a young age that I should save money. And I'm going to be honest, I actually grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. The difference is excuse me, the difference is, I always knew that there was going to be more, and I never really had to support myself, so I never learned that skill until I got much older. So what ended up happening is I ran away from home. And then when I ran away from home, I started, trying to make money, but I didn't have any skills in terms of knowing how to save anything or how to plan at that. I did not learn that in school, which I think is also something really important, learning how to plan and learning how to money manage. So I literally struggled for quite a while until I ended up coming to New Orleans, actually, and learning that, but that was by necessity at that point, because either I was going to be back homeless again or I was going to learn these, and that caused me to learn that. But I feel like if children could learn that ahead of time, which we do have another person that was interested in learning, teaching young people how to manage their money, but I have to get back in touch with her before I can really say whether or not that is a real thing right now. So exactly.
Yes, and I wanted to. I don't want to make it. I don't want to make it seem like money isn't important, because it is, and I just think that it is important to know how to manage it to obtain what you want. And I do think that, with the original question, getting back on topic, one thing that I was going to say too is that with everything trending right now, with everything expanding so quickly, and with so many different opportunities, I think it's going to be important for them to make sound decisions, know how to make sound decisions, and know how to follow through, know how to see where it is that you want to be, and then know how to get there, and not just end up being pulled in a bunch of different directions because there's, well, you want a physical location, but then technology is what's going on right now, but then you still want to be in the here and now, and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of freedom, and not that freedom is a bad thing, but when it's not handled correctly, you just end up being all over the place. That was actually where I got the idea for my tag, Nessie Labata, because it just means a cloud walker. It means one that isn't limited to society or any convictions, art, literature. It's just kind of all over the place. And even though I was there and I'm getting out of that now, I think that it'll be harder for kids or even for people that are expanding with technology, because they're so sucked into what's new and what's happening now that they're not paying attention to self and where they want to go. And, you can always be your own entrepreneur. You can always start your own thing. You don't have to follow somebody else's. You don't have to be a part of a business. And that's one thing that I love about what we are doing. That's one thing that I love about WelshRighz, is that it's not like, oh, if you work with us, you have to do everything we want you to do. It's no, do what you want to do. We're just going to give you resources and a support system and people that have the same vision as you have, and somewhere to fall back on if you do fall back.
Mm-hmm. And something that I did want to mention about that, the fact that, something that should be mentioned is that some people, they want to be either, they want to be artists, but then they also want to be other. And the thing about that is that when you become a boss, that is a limiting factor on your artwork. And that's just because that's a whole different part of your brain that you have to use. Now, if you're ambibraneous, I made that up just now. If you're ambibraneous, then good for you, go for it. But then also WelshRighz is somewhere for artists to be managed, so they don't have to really think about too much in the detail. Now, they still have full access to know exactly what's going on with where and how it's going. So I'm not saying that they're out of the details. I'm just saying that they don't have to worry about it. And also to your point about money being a factor and things like this, would you say that for our society, do you think it's going towards a more monetary society, or do you think it's going to end up being bartering? That was from
personally, I would hope. Personally, I would hope that it would go more so towards bartering, because I feel like there's more there. With money, it's very much paper and numbers. But when it comes to bartering, there's a lot of different aspects to it. You can barter anything as long as it's useful or even necessary to the person that you're trying to make the deal with. But I do think that with what I'm getting in a lot of the communities that I've been in, everyone just wants to go further with money. Everybody feels like you don't have security if you don't have money. They feel like you don't have power if you don't have money. And they feel like money is still very much everything. You just need more of it. And I know that that's kind of like a thin line because, I mean, even the average millionaire has at least 7 different forms of income, so it is important to fuel the machine, but just don't forget what the machine is meant to do.
Also, for both of you guys now, because I want to make sure that we all have voices, for freedom that you were speaking of, Nafela Bata. How would one learn or teach someone how to hone in on what they're trying to do? Because if they're unorganized, it might seem like something impossible, especially if they don't have like a teacher or a parent to teach them that. How do you think that they would go about trying to hone that in?
Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry. I really didn't hear it.
How would someone hone in on their art or like something that they're trying to do if they don't have like a teacher or a parent or someone to teach them that? How do they hone in on it? This would be a good example for you because this is basically what you did. How did you come from your background to becoming a business owner? Like, what inspired you in that moment? Like, how do you teach someone how to become motivated enough to go for what they really want?
Well, like I said before, I think that it's pretty much all about your drive. It's about, first of all, you have to figure out who you are, first and foremost, before anything. Then you have to really sit down and think about what do you want to do. And you just have to stay focused. You can't let nothing stop you or deter you from reaching it. It's like, I didn't have no help. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of people, they don't have no help. But it's up to you. It's you at the end of the day. You come in this world alone. Even if you're a twin, you come in here. There's only one can come out the womb at a time. And you have to think for yourself, basically. Life not owe you nothing. Life is life. It's filled up with troubles. It's filled up with problems. Oh, just because I went through this, I encountered this, I can't get, you know what I'm saying? No, that's excuses.
So you don't think that it's teachable? You don't think it's teachable? You think that someone has to have that drive in them automatically?
I don't think that's teachable. That's just something that's you, to each his own.
Okay.
Just like my people, they just up and down. They wanted me to play the piano. They had piano lessons from like about 3 different teachers. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to play the piano. I still know how to read music to this day, but I'm not going to sit down and play the piano. You know what I'm saying? That was something that was taught to me, and that's something that I refuse to do now. Even though I'm still in the music field, I just refuse to do that. So teach. That's something. You could be taught anything. You could be taught how to fly to the moon. That don't mean that you're going to do it.
So you're specifically speaking on specific things, but I mean something that someone, quote, wants. You're saying that they can't be taught to have the drive, right?
No, you can be motivated to have it, but that's not really something, in my opinion, that is taught.
Well, motivation is like specifically what I'm going for there. Let me tell you about my story now. So I will say that my loss of motivation or lack of motivation is that I just didn't understand. I didn't understand how the world worked. I didn't understand how business really worked. Like, I even went to business administration for a while and I just didn't get it. But as soon as I started understanding like how everything falls and how you have to organize things and all this other stuff, I was up and ready, and I haven't stopped since then. I haven't stopped running. So I'd say that part of my motivation really was just an understanding in general, understanding what's going on. So I do believe like teachers are a big deal, and people underestimate, is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, not underestimate. Okay, let's go with it. Underestimate the power that a teacher can have. And in our society, it's unfortunate that most teachers are not compensated for what they really do. Because at the end of the day, yes, depending on who you talk to and where they go to school it could be the wrong type of education or whatever, but at the end of the day, they are training people's children day in and day out in order to be successful, so to speak. And I think that's another big deal that millennials may not think of, because either they have very young children or they don't have children at all, is how you train someone from the time that they come out of the womb. They do come out alone, as you say. They do come out alone. So as a child, you're being built up from the ground up. So do you think that it is possible to motivate someone from even a young age like that? Or do you think that from development, like they just develop a certain way as that individual and then they're done?
Well, I definitely think that it's teachable, and I think that it is. I think that I absolutely believe that you can motivate somebody, because some people don't see the good in their own ways. You know, like somebody could be a painter and they could be so magnificent at it, but they just don't pay it any mind, you know, because if they're naturally talented at it, they don't feel like they don't have to put work into it. So they're just like, oh, you know, I'll do it when I get around to it. I'll do it when I feel like it. But they don't realize you could make a whole business off of doing what you love to do. You could never work a day in your life, because every day you're spent doing something that you absolutely love to do. But I do agree with what Sin is saying, because you do have to have a certain form of motivation. I mean, you can take a horse to every form of water there is, but they still have to choose to drink. So you do have to have that fire inside of you that says, I want this, because nobody else can want it for you, or everybody can want it for you. But either way, that's not going to get it for you unless you want it for you too.
So do you think the success of that moment comes from that very second when that horse decides to drink that water? Or do you think that the success of that moment is the work itself that comes after that?
I think it's equally both parts, because when you have somebody there kind of pushing you, when you have somebody right next to you drinking the water, like, I'm telling you, man, this is good. You don't want to miss out on this. Like, when you have somebody, you know, right there, it kind of builds you up, and it kind of makes you feel safe, and it makes you feel more secure in the decision that you're about to make, because going off and doing your own thing is so scary for so many people. They want to do what's already known. They want to do what already has a rule book. They want to do what already, you know where you're going to fail and where you're going to succeed in certain aspects, and that's what they want to follow. Nobody really wants to do things on their own, because there's such a high rate of it going wrong, just because there's no specific guideline, there's no specific book. So a lot of people just want to stick to what's safe. But if they're, motivated by seeing other people, or even other people telling them, I'm going to be here regardless, even if we have to walk around and sell your mixtapes on foot to every city at $5 a tape, like, I'm going to be here for you. We're going to work this out. We're going to make this happen. That does give you a sense of just security, like, all right, we got this. Even if we don't got it, we got it. Like, I'm comfortable, let's do it. But then also you still have to choose then to get up every day and go out and sell that. You can't just say you're going to do it and then don't do it because you don't have the motivation to do so.
You're right. Beautifully said, because that is 100% accurate. Now, I am looking at this subject, right? Do you think that parents that were born before the crack babies, i.e. 80s, 90s, etc., do you think that they are capable of keeping up with their kids, but also helping them be successful, and how?
Well, I think that it depends on that individual. I mean, some parents are so wise beyond their years, and they know that even if they can't keep up with them as far as, oh, well, I can't tell you how to turn the volume off on this, but I can tell you that you don't need to be watching it anyway. Go outside. Go see your friends that you haven't seen in a while. They're your parents. Like, as long as they're, decent parents, they're going to always know what is best for you. And you're going to always need that. Like, it doesn't matter how old you get. Like, you're going to always, nobody can do for you what a parent can do for you. Even if you don't have blood parents, even if you have somebody that's your same age, but you look to them like they're, your mom or your dad or something, because they have been there and they've supported you in that aspect. And so even if they were born, before all of this, I wouldn't be surprised if they saw it coming a mile away, because our parents tend to be pretty wise beyond their years, and they know what to look for. They see the patterns. Everything is nothing but a pattern, and they see that. They see that all the old school stuff is trending now, and like it's just gonna go back in a whole other circle. So anybody that understands that can be there.
Or better yet, a spiral, right?
Yes.
Exactly. Inside joke. Y'all will know that inside joke eventually. We will get into quantum physics on a whole different topic. But aside from that, Sin City, do you have anything else that you'd like to mention, say, or drop right now? Hello? Is it she we're looking for? Well, yeah.
Over here singing.
Hey, don't be talking about my singing. My singing is awesome, as y'all should know, because I am a mere... Yeah, you better like my singing. I'm a mere Appleseed, and I am dropping some singles soon. I do have some singles out already, but don't go listen to them yet, because I'm getting them remastered. Aside from that, follow WelshRighz, # WelshRighz, and Nefilabata. Would you like to say anything else before we close out?
I mean, I hope that everybody got what they needed to get from this, whether they listened.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, I'm very sorry. My phone had died.
Uh-oh. Okay.
We are all on
okay.
the webpage and the...
Okay.
Okay, you're going to do that part?
Okay, go ahead. We're sorry. We thought it all dropped for a second. We're like, no. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that we're all on the Facebook and everything, and I just figured you were going to give them the specifics as far as the Instagram and the Facebook. And
very good. Yes, I often advertise off of Amir Appleseed, Amir _ Appleseed, excuse me, on Instagram and on Facebook. We have a few pages, but the most important one is facebook.com/WelshRighz. It's that easy. Rise is RIGHZ. And again, Sin City, would you like to say anything before we close out?
Yeah, I want to thank you for even coming back, giving into the community, trying to even go back and help people, because it's real hard to find people like that. Well, I want to say that. Cora, thanks for sticking with us.
Very good. Very good. I appreciate you. No, I appreciate the work you're doing. Look, we're trying to get into speaking publicly and everything like that as well. So just like you guys back at Icons, but then also in your own organization. So we'll be collaborating a lot more between the three of us and many more people after this. And I'm guessing this is how we're going to sign out, because we're going to find a proper sign out. Just, I'm going to say rise. There we go. Just rise, everybody. Rise.
Right. I was a part of that.